Welcome, all of you. This is the IMPAKT event Steve Reinke, a closing event to our residency. And you could say it's a semi-private preview show, so I'm very glad that you're all here. We've got well, maybe you're a test audience, because some of the works in this program are newly made. First we'll see the public eye. Let's start with thanking the European Union, because this is a residency program supported by the European Union. Steve Reinke is one of the artists. He's from Canada, but we also have artists from Australia, and this mixture of Australian, Canadian and European artists are in our residency program. That's not only us, but also FACT in Liverpool, Werkleids in Halle, Germany, and Bandimage in Bourges, France. So it's a real European, Canadian, European, Australian network. Next year we'll have Daniel Coburn, that some of you maybe will remember. He was here 2 years ago, and he will be the next Canadian resident artist in our residency program. So thank you, European Union, for making this possible. Tonight's audience, I think, pretty much reflects Steve's body of work. People from literature, visual arts and filmmaking. We're very glad that you all made it. And please welcome to the stage Steve Reinke. Maybe Steve, you give a short introduction to the first works in tonight's screening, because we'll start with some older works that you made in the previous residency about 3 years ago, 2 years ago here at IMPAKT. Cartoon for those who like it, Beaver Skull Magic and Achterberg Conversion Modules. These are 3 short works that we'll start with. Then there will be a small Q&A. And then we'll screen 2 other works. A short one called Announce...
A Day for Cake and Accidents.
Okay, thank you. And then the pièce de résistance, the work that you made in the residency here, The Natural Look. So that's tonight's program. 3 shorts, an interlude, a short, and the main piece. And then you'll do a little bit of reading. But maybe you give us a short introduction to the first part of tonight's program.
I will. I was in a residency here in 2010, and I did 3 short pieces then, 3 short pieces that became part of the compilation video Final Thoughts Series 2. And I might talk a bit more about them after the screening, but after the first chunk. They're all very short. But the one that's kind of Utrecht-based, or kind of came out of the residency most directly, I had the idea to translate something, even though I don't know Dutch. So I came across this book. I was surprised to come back, not that surprised, but to come back in June, and the book was still on the shelf where I left it in 2010, upstairs in the studio. And so I've been doing some more translations. So one of the videos is based on very faulty translations of, at one time, Utrecht-based poet Gerrit Achterberg. Yeah, that's probably enough for now.
Okay, the rest we can talk about after the screening of the first 3 works, so please enjoy.
Yes, altogether these are probably less than 10 minutes.
It's over before you notice.
Over before.
Enjoy.
We all lived in a little clearing. Rows of bunks in the steep wall of a gully. We did not really live together. We were merely adjacent. Because we came from the swamp, our skin was beautifully luminous and supple. There is no higher plane. After a certain point, it's all mountains. Every door leads eventually to the world. But we had no doors. There are so many ways in which one can be betrayed by curiosity. Why is that corpse still sweating? Is it not a true cadaver? Tourist? Or veteran of a foreign war? Small forms constructed from abstractions. Large forms constructed from small forms. A coin rubbing against another coin. Elaborate balloon creatures squeaking against one another. A foreskin stuffed with marbles. The video, known by several titles, but most frequently Shake the Bear or Shake That Bear, shortened often to STB, has 12 shots and is just over 90 seconds. In the first shot, a woman points a hunting rifle and takes a shot at a bear in a tree.
Nice, you got it. Put another one on the table.
In the second shot, she takes a second shot. In the third shot, the bear falls. In the fourth shot, the hunter lets out a triumphant yelp.
Woo!
In the fifth shot, she stands over the bear and pokes it with her rifle. I didn't add this music. The sixth shot is a close-up of the bear's face, the bear's snout, as it lies dead on the forest floor. For the sake of dignity, I am blocking out portions of the image. In the seventh shot, a man is fucking the hunter from behind. She is leaning on the bear corpse.
Pardon me if I don't last a long time, sweetheart. It is cold.
In the eighth shot, they are still fucking. The man seems like a generous and patient lover.
Shake that bear. Shake that bear. Oh, yeah.
Ninth shot, more fucking.
We can't yell too loud because the hound guys are right over there. They're right over there.
In a sense, they are acting out the story of Adam and Eve, but for a post-lapsarian world. They are taking revenge.
You know what's up. I'm gonna come all over your ass.
In the 10th shot, the man pulls out and ejaculates on the hunter's buttocks.
Close. Come in, yeah. Fuck yeah.
Oh,
Fuck yeah.
nice and warm. Oh.
In the 11th shot, dogs tear at the bear's likely still warm flesh.
Good dogs.
Pretty much, yeah.
In the 12th and final shot, the hunter, now clothed and surrounded by other hunters, smokes a cigarette and takes a swig from a bottle of wild turkey.
Congratulations on the bear.
You cannot really call yourself an animal if your brain is bigger than your teeth. Beavers are a hybrid of humans, bears, and little nest-building birds. Beavers combine the best qualities of humans, bears, and little nest-building birds. If a bear and a human were to crossbreed, the best one could hope for would be a Russian circus performer. If a beaver and a human were to crossbreed, you would get half the time a beaver, half the time a human. Genetically, they would not mix but slip. There is here, in this image, both potent and feeble, a desire for building, assuming, and maintaining an identity that is transcultural and transspecies. Is it wrong of me to address the desires of Grey Owl, but not those of the beaver, who is named Rawhide? No, because Grey Owl looks directly into the camera, thereby opening up a channel or conduit for desires to run from screen to viewer, while Rawhide neglects or refuses to engage us so directly, keeping its internal psychic world to itself. But perhaps it is not even Grey Owl who looks out at us. Perhaps it is we who look back and in at Grey Owl, while it is Archibald Bellany who looks out at us. In Utrecht, outside they're celebrating. Holland has just won their first match in the World Cup. But I must get down to work. I have this video camera, a desk, paper and pen, a book of poems in Dutch, and a Netherlands Engels dictionary. The poems are by Gerrit Achterberg, who once lived in Utrecht. He shot a woman here, and then he left, or was taken away. The beast is patient at the window. It is not presently hungry. The saint is lifted. The saint is peeled away. I'm hitting the road. I'm traveling before the tears, before God and man and animal. The saint is here. The saint of saints awakes. I'm drawing things together, making equivalencies. Life and death, for instance, no longer stand apart. The walls have fallen. The four regions of heaven have fallen open. You are loose, laughing, but hooked into it. The paper you are holding is knit together by the individual letters. They've gathered together, character by character, and stand as variables of you, for you.
The first film, well, no, let's start with when does a work end up as a tattoo on your body? What?
Well, I mean, that's maybe the only time that I can think of, and I have a lot of tattoos,
Okay.
that they're directly related to a work. It seemed that the process of translation was not only getting a dictionary and clumsily translating a poem from another language, but then turning that into a continuous line drawing or animation, and then turning that into a tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
So the final product of the translation is not a verbal one, but an image that in some way stands in for the poem, which this one does pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but,
Yeah, that's the one. And I can imagine that most of your well, the first piece made me wonder about what your sketchbook looks like, or how you're using a sketchbook in relation to your work.
my sketchbook is mostly all words, actually.
Uh-huh. No drawings?
Few drawings. Yeah, not so many. I had my goal there was to do my own version of a work I like very much. David Shrigley's "Who I Am," and I forget the title. That piece is nothing like the Shrigley piece, but yet it's in a strange way my version of that cartoon that some of you have seen, I think.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, yeah. It's not helpful to say that because they have nothing alike. David Shrigley's "Who I Am and What I Want."
Yeah, I think it's something like that.
It's called something like that.
Something like
Yeah, I think there might only be one that I know of, or at least one longer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not that long. It's 6 minutes maybe, but one
I
more
think an
sustained
angry,
version.
antisocial character in animation, something like that.
Well, I don't even know if it was that, but yeah, that would be common enough in animation.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Then the second piece that we saw, Beaver Skull Magic, consists of two parts.
Mhm.
Do we need to see these two parts as opposing parts, or?
There are differences between them, but they're not opposing.
Mm-hmm.
I guess an anecdote. I was at where I teach. We take our grad students, of which there are only 5 a year, so 10 altogether, on a trip every 2 years. So on one of the trips to the American Southwest, actually that part of the story isn't so relevant. Anyway, I was around the grad students, and they were talking about the most outrageous porn they'd ever seen. So I was, kind of listening, and then one described the bear one. I'm like, no, that does not actually exist. And he's like, yep, that exists. And so he showed me where it was.
Not just as a clip, but as a genre?
No, as a clip. I don't think it's a genre.
Okay.
Well, let's hope it's not a genre. I don't know.
I don't know. There's a lot
Yeah.
of strange things out there.
Yeah. And then they privately took bets at how long it would take me to use it in a video, which wasn't that long.
How long?
Maybe a full 9-10 months, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. And the second part of the video, I did another project closely around the same time with the National Archives of Canada, and that video is called something. Might Come to Me. And this was kind of footage left over from that. It's another kind of a very different, but still a kind of sexualized human-animal encounter. So different, but it still seemed to me. One of the things I have in my work that I like to work with, sometimes there's imagery that's so strong, it sort of blasts everything else away, which sometimes is to my detriment. Like I will have like a beautiful monologue, but because of the images, people don't hear the monologue. They just remember a sort of assaultive sexual image rather than.
Yeah, Minnesota inventory comes to my mind. But that's
Oh,
probably
yeah,
a
yeah.
work that none of you here knows.
And so it was kind of a way of trying to recuperate, open out, soften, as in fact the first part of the video does too, to maintain whatever charge the image has, but let that do other work. Let it not be merely assaultive. And I always like two-part things too. It gives you sort of another place to go.
Yeah.
As vague as that sounds.
And the second part is about grey owl. Maybe you
Yeah, so-
introduce a little bit, because it's some of a thing
Yeah.
that meant something in your childhood that you grew up with, or
No, I'm even a bit too young for Gray Owl, although I knew who he was. And people now in North America may not know who he was if they're younger than I am. But he was very famous earlier as kind of one of the first conservationists, but also someone who pretended to be Native American when they were actually Scottish. His actual name was Archibald MacLeish, but he was known as Gray Owl, and a kind of very famous, a best-selling author, and had a wildlife sanctuary set up through North America, and was married to, in fact, one Scottish woman and then 3 or 4 Native American women at the same time under different names. So he had some ties to the. But anyway, he's a seminal, famous figure who we, yeah.
So is it a piece about our relationship to nature? Is it about how perverted this relationship is nowadays, or?
I can't say it's about those things. I can say it uses those things to do maybe something else. And that other thing is just kind of an opening up of ideas or possibilities. So the video isn't about human-animal relationships. It doesn't have anything to say about them. Yet it uses them to kind of open up other possibilities. I know that sounds really vague, but...
Okay. Well, maybe it's not vague to the audience.
Oh, it has.
So if you have questions, at any moment, feel free to raise your hand. And if not, then the third piece was about Utrecht, really.
Yes.
And it was called Achterberg Conversion Modules, which makes me wonder why particularly Achterberg. Of course, he has a relationship to Utrecht, but there are many other Dutch authors. Maybe, or if you want to save that until your reading, which will be from Achterberg's, the faulty translations from
A little
Achterberg.
bit.
Yeah. Already maybe you can tell us a little bit what's so fascinating about Achterberg to you.
Oh, I mean, I just found the book, not accidentally. I was looking for a book of modern or contemporary poetry from the Netherlands to do the project with. That was the first one I found. I didn't know anything about it, and it seemed to work. Yeah. I know because I know nothing about the area. I'm sure there would be better choices. On the other hand, I kind of think there wouldn't be better choices. I think by dumb luck, I hit on the exact right author for me, although I really have no idea.
And the exact right is because he's an introverted, tormented soul, or because he killed his landlady?
It's lyric poetry. They're all. He would share that with most lyric poets of his time, I think. But
so still, I'm trying to grasp what particularly appealed to you, is appealing to you in Achterberg.
Right. Why I would 4 years later come back and still continue a little bit the same thing. I think, well, there is, as with most lyric poetry, there's a kind of, on the one hand, a simplicity. They're short. The sentences they use are kind of short. and it's very kind of imagistic language. So within that, there's kind of a lot of room for me to play. I assume I don't get any of the nuances, or in fact, some of the words don't pop up in the dictionary. Yeah.
Okay. If there are no questions, we'll continue with the second part. Consists of 2 works and a reading. The second part of this evening has a screening of a Jessie Mott piece. Maybe a few words on Jessie Mott, who she is. I think it's a female.
It is a
artist.
female.
And I saw there's a llama with breasts on her website, which is also in one of your videos. So you've been also incorporating her work into your work, I take it. Maybe a few words on Jessie Mott and why you're including her work in your work and showing her work now here.
Well, this is a collaboration, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So So she was, she was a student of mine, and I do a class off in the thesis practicum, where grad students write their thesis. And she took it not in her thesis year, but in the year before. And so she said, "What should I do?" And I knew she was making pictures of animals, as you'll see. I was like, "Oh, make it have the animals have a conversation." And so she began to write scripts of her animals having conversations. And I really liked the script, so I was like, let's make a cartoon. And so we started making cartoons. She would write the scripts, record the voices, usually friends of hers, and draw the pictures. And I would construct a soundtrack around the voices that she recorded, and we decided to only use the music of Madonna and Karl-Heinz Stockhausen. And then I animated her drawings to that soundtrack. So we've done 3 collaborations so far. This is the 3rd one. And I think we're going to do 2 more in quick succession and then see what happens. Yeah,
the one we're screening tonight is a Day for Cake and Accidents. And after that, we'll continue with The Natural Look, the piece that you made here.
Yes, so The Natural Look is a longer piece. It's 36 minutes. I made it here during my residency. It's sort of one of the... I usually work pretty quick, but I've never made a piece this ambitious this quickly. I came kind of with nothing. The one monologue I did come with, I didn't use. Will probably be in the next video. Maybe that's enough.
Yeah, maybe we'll simply look and talk about it afterwards. After the Natural Look, we have announced the reading. Do you want to do that right after, or a bit of Q&A before you do the reading?
I think I'll do the reading, which won't be very long, and then questions can stew for a little while.
Okay.
Rather than that.
So after the Natural Look, the stage is yours, you'll do your reading.
The stage is mine.
And then we'll do the Q&A. Enjoy.
I had an intuitive feeling for language. A milky thrill coursed through me. Small and numerous pustules erupted. I am congealed with a plummy sadness.
I am burdened with thoughts. Destroy the things that have destroyed you. I can feel something coming, an obscene astrological event.
The sky is lousy with celestial bodies.
The stars are swelling into bloated red giants, their cores depleted, moist and crumbling.
Mercury is bleeding.
The moon is melting.
Venus is sticky, a meaty thing.
Mars has a gummy smile.
Neptune has sores for eyes.
Jupiter is hateful and oversatiated.
Saturn is cracking.
Pluto is a bitter melon.
Uranus is becoming ashes.
The Earth is thunderous and sour, drawing inward and will be swallowed by the sun.
The sun is a beast.
It is a massive pudding.
This cake is cloying and thick like summer, embalmed with throbbings of purple berry. It leaves me with a bruise for a mouth.
Something's missing and I don't know why. I was feel the need to hide my feelings from you.
It gives me a small ache, provokes my tendency to coma.
Erotic, necrotic. The kind that gives you everything and robs you of everything at the same time.
It tastes like a slimy emergency of sweaty leather and embarrassment. The kind that gives you everything and robs you of everything at the same time.
It is like the crashing of our teeth through living tissue. Through living tissue.
Everything is suddenly on fire.
Don't put me off, 'cause I'm on fire.
Everything is burning.
This is a fire that eats like a cruel baby.
This fire is the queen of animal fevers.
This fire causes me an oatmeal-y terror, a peculiar rubbing.
This umbilical loneliness.
It's a day for cake and accident.
I'll lend you my hands on the edge of your cities. You see me and then I come with the dust and I'm gone with the wind. California, Arizona, I've worked on your crops, then northward up to Oregon to gather your hops. I dug beets from your ground, I've cut grapes from the vine, set on your table that light sparkling wine. Green pastures aplenty from dry desert ground, from the Grand Coulee Dam where waters run down. Every state of this union migrants have been. We come with the dust and we're gone with the wind. It's always we ramble that river and I, along your green valley I work till I die. Travel this road until death sets me free. 'Cause pastures are plenty, must always be free. Well, I wandered all over your green growing land, wherever your crops are, I'll lend you my hand. On the edge of your cities, you you see me, and then I become with the dust, and I'm gone with the wind.
That born and raised in Covington, a 10-year-old no-go, brought up by honest parents, and the truth to you I'll tell. Brought up by honest parents, so young and tenderly, I became a roving boy at the age of 23. So I made my true love walking with another boy through town. I drew my old revolver and I shot that poor boy down. Monday I was arrested, placed here in the county jail. Father, who was all bound down.
There is no future in reproduction. I do not show you these birth images, camel, human, out of any concern for a species extending itself through time. The refinements of evolution are superfluous. You don't even get monsters very often, usually just delicates, specialists. You think you have given birth to a baby, when really you have given birth to a bus driver or tax collector.
Here.
I am interested only in the placenta, the real mother of us all, forgotten, inhuman, discarded. The softest machine, all lipids and blood, that blooms and rots like any vegetal floral martyr. That umbilical cord did not connect you to your mother. It connected you to that most partial of objects, the placenta, part you, part mom, all martyr and garbage. It is not the afterbirth, but the essence of birth itself. This video is dedicated to all things placental.
Daddy! What, baby?
Blood!
What?
Blood!
What?
Baby did!
Baby's got what?
Blood!
What does he have?
Blood.
Where?
Blood. There. Blood. See? Blood. I'm funny. I'm funny. Blood. I'm funny. I'm funny.
I know, it's so funny. Yeah, it's not funny. Not funny.
Blood.
I'm trying to build a worldview, not my worldview, just a worldview, a philosophy. My first principle, I am full of blood, mammal blood. But there's also blood elsewhere in the world, and it takes different forms. My blood is wet and red. Blood that is not red should be given a different name. That is my first axiom. Whatever is blood and is not red shall not be designated as blood. It must find its own name. My blood is wet, but blood in general, mammal blood, can also be a gas or solid. Explode any body and it aerates, becomes a fine pink mist. There also exists powdered blood, like powdered milk. They put it in boxes, like the boxes cereal comes in, breakfast cereal, and they stockpile it for the time in the future when a use may be discovered for it. I assume there will emerge soon, if it isn't already ancient, a sect of Catholicism that venerates the placenta that Mary shared with Jesus. It will be radiant in sky blue vestment.
Female being actively courted by a number of males. They're rubbing their chins up on her back to try and stimulate her and convince her that they're the one. She will eventually mate with one of the males and then move off into the forests and wetlands around the dens and eat some frogs and toads all summer and give birth to some babies in late August or early September. There's a great big old mating ball. Somewhere in there, probably one or two nice big females trying to decide who to mate with and trying to decide how to get out of there. Manitoba's Interlake is actually full of snake dens, not just at the Narcissus site. Here's another little one at a secret location.
is it that snakes do not have a placenta? I think they should. We should make them honorary mammals. It seems to me serpent placenta would be a very powerful thing. Without it, for instance, it would be difficult to imagine a talking, or magic, dragon. We can see clearly in this image, as well as in the thousands of images like it, that the heart is a metonym for the placenta.
E só tô triste hoje porque eu tô cansada. De modo geral, eu sou alegre.
You expect me, perhaps, to state that this video illustrates the core of homoeroticism that lies not so far below compulsory heterosexuality. But it seems to me that what these faggots really want is to return to the placental. The soft pummeling with booze and fists, rolling slowly on the grass. They want to become giant, inert nutrient sacks for each other, not dead, not alive, prior to suckling, prior to excretion, not oral, anal, or genital, just a wet transfer of life, molecule by molecule. Like any animal, I have clawed my way out of polymorphous perversity. Now I am perpetually in that state which precedes arousal, a steady, low-level anxiety manifest as a slight dermal itch everywhere, save my ears and the soles of my feet. I miss the oral, the anal, and the genital. But when one remaps these reductive Freudian concepts onto a wider playing field, things begin to open up. In this I am, I guess, Lacanian. The human corresponds to anxiety, to a generalized itch, the animal to genital, mineral to anal, vegetable, oral. With this insight, the world opens up, and my skin becomes less inflamed.
Got blood rush to my head, they hot lock popping off the fucking block. Now clocking wristlet watch been top off. Dragon volume blasting, bailing out my brain. Red light flash, dim stop I smash. Abraxas, hydroplane, massive. That's this fight for rain and madness. Mastermind and laser ab with black cat fist on the way to stratus. Come right the far left line. Don't wait for me if I care about anything, anywhere. Losing myself, I get the stairs. What I'm looking at wasn't there. Wasn't there. Wasn't there. Wasn't there. Wasn't there. Nothing out there against me inside. Hit the ball, sleep deprived. Who drove the car? I'm still alive.
Here is another drunk wrestling video. There are thousands on YouTube.
Lycanthropic manic cycles, fire water burning Bibles.
This one is less purely about the placental. It is more about fucking. Fucking as a kind of domination. I understand, I think, the two wrestlers, and I love the one who loses. He has a beautiful smile, and I want to fuck him, and piss on him too. What I don't understand are all the marauding watchers, in boots and underwear. What are they doing? What do they get out of this? I want to fuck them too, if only to determine where they stand in all this. The real doesn't give me asthma. I don't have asthma. I have allergies. Some people are allergic only to a few specific things. Cuttlefish, asparagus, Dobermans. That is an affliction, obviously, at the level of the symbolic. But I'm allergic to practically everything. It need not be named. In fact, any list could not contain a full accounting of my allergens. Truly, I am allergic to the real. The real causes in me a severe allergic reaction. I went to the allergist, and they pricked my skin 1,000 times. I began to inflate. Pus poured out of my ears. It isn't a matter of sensitivity. The physical world is my enemy. The only things to which I was non-reactive were those things everyone else is allergic to. Dust and mold. My only friends in this world, dust and mold. Does the world belong to rocks, or does it belong to plants? Animals are obviously an afterthought, skittering about the surface. The world is rocks, and this world of rocks belongs to plants. Mineral is the base, vegetal the structure. One must feed and excrete, eat and shit, but the genital is superfluous. That is my new slogan, my new post-humanist slogan. I'm making t-shirts. The genital is superfluous. Is dust even really a thing? Yes, it is a hybrid thing, an agglutination. It gathers vague notions. These notions cling together without ever quite forming an idea, let alone an argument. Dust carries things along with it as it rolls through the world like a tiny tumbleweed in a John Ford Western. Dust is what allows the light to refract. Without it, all vision would be very flat. There would be fewer colors. Dust carries a slight electrical charge. That's why it never gets caught in fresh spider webs. They repel each other, at least until the web runs out of power, loses its charge. Dust cannot catch fire. Lint is not the king of dust. Dust may cradle dead skin cells, hold them in suspension, but these sloughed-off scales are not properly dust. Dust mites are dinosaurs, dinosaurs of the dust world. As I am not allergic to dust mites, I can assume I am also not allergic to triceratops. When I go to Palm Springs, I have no allergies. Palm Springs, lost world of the dinosaurs. I will retire there. You can come visit. I won't have a pool, but we can use the one next door. Raymond and Kip won't mind. They do not use it themselves so much anymore. For some, gems sparkle. Not for me. I'm unable to comprehend crystals. Crystalline structures, all angles and refractions, never come into focus for me. They remain a kind of organic mush. I had to have someone assemble this part of the video for me. I see nothing here but vague shapes. I hope they did a good job. I hired the best. They asked to go uncredited. Do rocks hold life? No. They preserve corpse shells. Does limestone filter everything? No. It allows all to pass unmolested. This is my father before he was anyone's father. If we were to examine the available photographic evidence and take physical beauty to correspond in some way to physical and emotional well-being, we could say, unequivocally, it was all downhill from here. He died young from cigarettes and rye. I am much older now than he ever was. This is difficult to fathom. How can one be older than one's father? Nevertheless, I've done the math. Sometimes now a horrible smell arises from my body, and it seems to me to have come from him. We share the same pus. I've only before, as a child, come across such an odor, and it was from him. My cysts come from him. My cysts and creeping tumors.
Hello, my name is Colette Lara Kennedy. This is a movie about my placenta. I am swinging with my grandma and my daddy on the swing, sucking my thumb when I was a little baby. My dad just got up. Now I'm walking in my grandma's arms around where we're going to put my placenta. I think that I am very small.
A partir de que momento, de acordo com a escritora, o ser humano vai se transformando em triste e solitário?
Isso é segredo. Desculpa, não vou responder. A qualquer momento da vida, basta um choque um pouco inesperado.
We are showing my placenta in a little bucket. It looks very disgusting. It's pink and looks like my brain. My dad is showing it to me. Now we are showing my plant that is where my placenta is my placenta. And my dad is showing it, and my dad is looking at it. Again, we are showing my placenta in the hole. Well, in the container next to the hole. Now my mom is holding holding something next to me, and I am sitting next to my placenta near the hole. I'm looking around. I think that it is very odd. Now we are showing my plant again, and my dad. The placenta is, now we are putting the placenta in the hole. It is so disgusting. It looks like a big fat ball of jelly. And I don't think I would ever want to touch it. I'm holding a microphone as well.
Tô falando de meu túmulo.
Just like I am right now. I look very, very suspicious, and I am a very curious person. And now my dad is planting my placenta next to my plant, and I'm sitting like a little girl right next to it. Goodbye.
Your face is a mess. Come in, baby. You can dry the tears on my dress. She's hurt you again, I can tell. Oh, I know that look so well. Don't be shy, you've been here before. Pull your shoes up, lie down, and I will lock the door. And no one has to know you've come here again.
Three of the recent Achterberg translations is the wrong word, but translations. Presence. Stones mark the street. The past is not too late. You are headed there. A line of simultaneity lets me find the day. A message in the city returns in due course. The line cuts through your bed at night. Canned. Time buried in the sands. You lived once, now I'm eating your preserves. You don't spoil. You shall enslave me with your durability. I may be gone at any time. Cartilage. You have disconnected from me. Elbow, shoulder blade, sweet leg gently cracked, my arm cracked, as if broken, these two lost in me. Oops. It's kind of flashbacks. I used to be, in my early 20s, a prose poet, in which I did exactly what I do now, except now they're in videos. I don't stand in front of people and perform them. What I'm going to do now is something I've never done before and may never do again. So when I came here in June, I had only one vague idea, a kind of opening idea for a monologue, and that would be a monologue against speaking extemporaneously, speaking off the cuff, and a plea for us to only ever speak from prepared texts. And I didn't, and that obviously didn't make it into the natural look, but I think it will be the starting point for the next video. So I have here a rough draft of the monologue or notes for the monologue for the next video. And I also think the next video will be a kind of sustained monologue. The work before this was a 56, 52, a longer piece called Rib Gets in the Way, kind of my first longer piece that isn't just little pieces put together. The natural look kind of follows in that. I'd like kind of the next piece to also be not made up of tiny 3 and 4 minute videos, but something more sustained, and perhaps even one monologue from which something derived from this might be the beginning. I hate reading a text that I'm not sure of, that isn't polished, and there's a camera even, but still. Friends, I caution you, do not speak off the cuff, do not extemporize. Instead, compose each utterance in advance, well in advance of its deployment, of its performance. The uttering of the utterance must never be spontaneous. If you do not approach speech with a conscious deliberation, you will find yourself to have become a puppet. Language will be speaking you. Language will have become that glass parasite that distorts, simplifies, misrepresents. Make sure that every thought is thought out, fully accounted for, composed, that is, written. To just speak diminishes the world, the human and the world. Some statements once uttered enter conspicuously the social air and cannot be taken back. They have already changed the temperature of the Celsius, so to speak. The most innocent grunt can do this, the most innocuous fart. Please do not grunt or fart spontaneously, but only ever deliberately. Script it out, deploy each precomposed utterance with a thoughtful, deliberate caution. There's little charm in spontaneity unless you are an animal or a child, one of the cuter animals or the child of peasants. So, I'm against speaking in general, but in particular, speaking extemporaneously, speaking off the cuff. Some statements, when they hit the air, once they hit the air, the ear of God and others, cause things to happen, and you can't really undo something, an event, once it has occurred. You erase and erase, backpedal, introduce counter utterances, counter arguments, but at the very least a smudge remains, the smudge of stupid speech that stated too much without revealing anything true, the smudge of stupid speech which brings the wrong things into being, or sheds the wrong kind of light on things already unfortunately in existence. All these smudges add up. Clarity becomes impossible.
Yes. Oh, wow. No, I was thinking about the process of the making of the film. Like, is it the images that generates ideas and text, or I imagine maybe both, and that sometimes you start with the text, or like, how does that process work?
It's both. It can almost be 50-50. Sometimes I have a text that needs an image. That can be very hard. Some texts don't have an obvious image. And also, from the very beginning of my work, I tried never to have the relationship between text and image be merely illustrative. So the the image can't just be what you're talking about in the text. That would be a bit boring. So sometimes the way out of that is just to have an abstract image, but hopefully something better than that. And yeah, so sometimes text comes first. Sometimes there's just a compelling image. And in the past, a compelling image would require a monologue. Now, with the newer work, images don't necessarily need a monologue. This last piece is kind of like a music, it's not a music video, but it's like a music-driven video, kind of equal to the monologues in a sense. There are chunks of image where there is no text. Not very many, but a few. But yeah, so it can be 50-50. I used to, I'm confident as a writer. I think I'm in control of language and what I'm saying and what it means, nuances, irony, all of that. And I have no idea how images make meaning. Images still seem mysterious to me. Yeah, I'm sure I'm fooling myself on both counts. But nonetheless, it's still how I feel. It's probably a lie, but I'm going to stick with it. Yeah.
And how, because the short one feels very sketch, like a light or like a fast thoughts, or like a there's a light touch. Is there different if you make longer films? Is there a longer? Do you work with a storyline or like? Because it feels a sketchbook.
Oh, the longer one?
No, the short
small
one. And also elements of the. But I was just wondering if it changes if you make a long film. Then.
I mean, it does, but I'm not sure why. I mean, that's almost a question for you, although you haven't seen very much. But even, it seems to me that, well, when I put together short things, it's more up to the viewer to make the connections. Where, I've only made 2 longer things so far. And I'm not sure how they work. I think this one is even quite different from Rib Gets in the Way, the previous one. This one's much more coherent as well. I mean, it always goes back to ideas around the placenta. And the other one's much more episodic, where there is no central theme even. So, I don't know. I've always been searching for a structure that allows, the first project I did was one called The 100 Videos, which was 100 separate videos. They were each stood on their own. Some of them were very slight, but nonetheless, they stood on their own. Altogether, the series is like under 5 hours, so the average length is kind of under 3 minutes. And that was a great structure for me, because anything, as long as it was short, would fit in, and it made sense. You'd go, oh, there are 100 videos, that's another one of them, and then there's another one. And there was a kind of set of expectations for spectatorship. So, okay, that's number 12, that's number 15. And one would make connections, but there wasn't kind of the burden of coherency other than the conceit of the framing device of the whole project. Later on, when I've strung together smaller pieces and called them sort of Final Thoughts Series 1, it was kind of a less compelling package for looking at individual components as one thing. Now I think the last piece is one thing, even though it allowed me to digress and have smaller things in it. One more anecdote. I don't even need a mic, it's a small room. Yeah. But it's bigger. Yeah. So after I finished the 100 videos, one of my first longer pieces, my second longer piece, I had it mapped out. It had like a structure. It had 3 kinds of monologues. And it had themes, and it had a progression. It had I could have charted it out. And as I was making it, I came across, I was working in the basement of the University of Toronto Library, which had large medical books. A medical book, a great book, which I found out to my chagrin, a few other artists have used this book as well, called The Brain of a Pianist. It's like, and a neuroscientist, his wife was a pianist, and she died, and he lovingly partitioned her brain slice by slice and made the most beautiful book of images of her brain. And so I introduced this into the video. It had nothing to do with the themes I'd carefully laid out, and I was like, it still works. And from that moment on, I was kind of less concerned about coherency or a kind of structure that's A, B, A, B. Yeah, so there's always a struggle for me in how closed or how open a structure is. Although mine tend to be very open, as you can see, but yeah. So I'm asking myself those questions as well, what the difference is between shorter and longer. Although I'm committed now to longer for a little while. And it worked this time.
Anyone else with a question? Yeah, just a sec.
How did your you being here and working in a residency, how did it influence this movie? Because I can see from the first residency you did in Utrecht and the first videos you showed, I can really see that you've been influenced by this poet, and also the image you shot in Utrecht. I can see a clear connection to you being here. Did something similar happen this time, or was it very different?
Well, it was different this time. I mean, I finished in January, February, Rib Gets in the Way, which is a long video, 52 minutes, that I had worked on for 2 years. And it was also a kind of summation video. The kind of central conceit was me, the narrator, had just turned 50 and was sort of looking back and looking forward. Kind of goes from there. And so it was like a large piece. And so after I made it, I didn't want to do anything. I might be done for video for a while. And then I thought, no, I'm going to make something big really fast. And so I used this residency as an opportunity to try that out. And so, in fact, the majority of this video was put together in June here. And I tinkered with it in Chicago back in July and August. So it was an opportunity to kind of work like a monk, which was productive. It wasn't very much fun, because I didn't do anything but work on, I work a lot and I work all the time. But I don't work, every day all the time. But I did here in June. And it worked, but I don't know that I'll do that again necessarily. It was too much work. I mean, it was not enough life or not enough fun. But
Our cameraman likes you.
Did you actually collect all the footage while you were here?
Yes.
Searching the internet? Or?
Yes.
Because it's not found footage, it's searched footage.
Yes. Well, they call that found footage.
Yeah,
because I didn't shoot it, but
no, but you've been actually searching for it all. So your residency, fucking word it is.
Yeah,
it's actually sitting behind the computer, searching throughout all databases to get imagery.
Yeah.
Or do you also have a collection?
I did not use my collection.
Okay. You do have one.
I do have one, but I didn't use it.
Okay.
I came with nothing except the idea for the monologue that I just read now, which I didn't use. Yeah, I came with nothing, and that was part of the idea or challenge. Yeah, it was all stuff I found here, except the first clip. I made a rough cut here, and I showed it to some people on Vimeo. And I showed it to my friend James Richards, with whom I collaborate with sometimes. And he first emailed back, it's great. And then he emailed back, well, it's a little bit dark. Here are 2 clips for you. And he sent me the bug in the ear clip, and then another clip which I'll use in the future. And so he sent me the clip it begins with, as if it lightens up the video. I don't know. But yeah, other than that, everything else was downloaded here in June.
Were you already really familiar with the Spectre and the other writer?
I was somewhat. I had read a few Clarice Lispector books, and I was pretty familiar with E.M. Sjoren, who I like a lot. His very negative, dark aphorisms I think are hilarious. And so I also read 3 Clarice Lispector novels while I was here, but they're very short. And the biographer of Clarice Lispector and the person who edits the new translations of her work from the Portuguese into English, Benjamin Moser, lives, or at least 2 years ago, lived in Utrecht. In all the books, it's like Utrecht, 2011. Anyone know Benjamin Moser? Utrecht, Clarice Lispector scholar?
No.
No? Okay.
Do you know where he lived? Because I don't think anyone in Utrecht knows about him.
No.
No. Okay. Other questions, maybe, from the audience. Yeah, maybe it's what maybe. Yeah, well, okay. Let's start with this one. The placenta, the softest of machine, which, of course, your ticket into this year's IMPAKT program. But maybe you can tell a bit more about this aphorism, this metaphor. Sorry.
So I don't know. I mean, one way to think about it is there's a branch of contemporary queer theory kind of around Lee Edelman and the book No Future, which stresses kind of anti-reproductive possibility, that one doesn't have to embrace the burden of not the burden, but to replace the idea of not reproducing being a burden with it of being kind of something else. And so, right, following in different ways, both from the Lispector and in a more basic way from E.M. Sjoren, the kind of assertion, E.M. Sjoren's large assertion is it's actually better not to be born in the first place. Lispector has a richer view of things. To turn away from the baby and say, let's just think about the placenta for a while. That's more rich area than a kind of there's no future in reproduction. A perverse statement.
And that, as you were referring, is an essential element in queer theory, or an element in queer theory?
It's an element.
Because one of the questions that I had to think about, is there a fundamental difference between philosophy from a queer, gay perspective versus a straight perspective? Was this element of reproduction is maybe one of the most important ones there? Or?
I would say that there isn't necessarily. Although there might tend to be.
Other than?
There might tend to be, but there isn't one necessarily. I don't think there's necessarily any difference between gay and not gay. And sort of queer was initially set up that it did not need to refer to, well, anything really, but any particular orientation, other than a philosophical one.
Which is not an important one, maybe?
It's important enough, but...
Okay. Then, I mean, your reading here, which you decided kind of spontaneous to do, which is also maybe a step from very controlled readings and forming of your work into a more spontaneous use of words. Is that like a threshold in your work that you're now passing? Or is it just tonight's decision to use text in a very spontaneous way to do this reading? Will it also influence the rest of your work?
No, in the past I've also played around with texts that are become more performative because they are only ever somewhat extemporaneous. And those would be the video Afternoon, is a video which was done in one afternoon and in-camera edited and not read off of, the script was written down but then moved over to the side. So it's almost exactly what I wrote, but not quite. It has an element of performativity and a small amount of extemporaneity. And anal masturbation and object loss, a performance video. I also, it could have been very easy to fake. I fake those monologues all the time, where I pretend they're live and performed, but really they're rehearsed. But that one is actually live and performed and somewhat extemporaneous. So there's often, I think, in the work, a tension between the idea of speaking off the cuff, which is also, sign is the wrong word, but indicative of a kind of sincerity, and a text that is prepared with ironic and ulterior motives. There's always working with that kind of tension. Yeah.
Any other questions? If not, the bar will be open for a while. On your chairs, you might have find our September-October brochure with the program for the upcoming month. We hope to see you more often here. And please give a warm applause to Steve Reinke.
Oh, thank you. And I should have thanked IMPAKT and you and Ilga and everyone here. I forgot to do that.
You're most welcome.
And also the European Union and stuff.
And the European Union. Let's thank the European Union. Sure. Okay. Enjoy the rest of the evening here. Thanks.